So for those that have children, you need to set your children up to become, to not waste as much time as you wasted, but rather set them up in the way that they should grow. Your sons and your daughters. Your daughters must be, as I know that everybody wants a righteous man to marry their daughter. Everybody wants a righteous man to marry their daughter. But you have to train your daughter to be a righteous wife. You have to train your daughter to be a righteous wife. Every day the clock is ticking. The clock is ticking. Ticking. When children are younger, they are easy to raise. They are easy to train. That is the reason why I say to train up a child in the way that they should go. So now is the time to train them. There's a lot of things that are no longer being taught to the girls that you have to teach them. As they go out and interact with the world teaches them that they are equal with men. That marriage is 50-50. You have to teach them that that's not so. You have to teach them according to the Bible. You have to teach them that as their husband is there to serve Yah, as the man, like you see in the garden, as Adam was serving Yah, Eve was supposed to serve Adam, and that was what she was doing. So as Adam was busy worrying about Yah's work, tilting the garden and doing Yah's work, the reason why the Most High created Eve was for her to help Adam out, to serve Yah. That was why Yah created created Eve. And you can see this in action with Sarah and Abraham. What did Sarah call her husband? My master. That's not what you call somebody who you are in a 50-50 relationship with. According to the world today, marriage is 50-50. It's partnership. Partnership, that's what it is, according to the Gentiles that we follow. But according to Yah, it's not so. A woman was made to serve the man. This is something that you have to swallow your pride and teach to your daughter. There is a very, very, very painful consequence at the end of the line if you don't teach them these things now. When you do teach them these things, as you look forward to a righteous man to marry your daughter, if a righteous man do marry your daughter, but your daughter doesn't possess these characteristics of a righteous woman, that marriage is not going to work. At the end of the day, your daughter is the one that will suffer. I'm telling you. As you desire a righteous man, I don't even know who's going to be listening to this. As it's being recorded, this is a big, 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 big information, a big advice. Those who want to raise their daughter as their daughter, I'm dealing with daughters right now. Those that want to raise their daughters as to be righteous, or those that want a righteous man for their daughters, you have to set your daughter up to be a righteous daughter. Because if you do find a righteous man for your daughter, but your daughter is not righteous, it will be a disaster for her. She is the one that will suffer. I'm going to be plain and straightforward and tell you what's going to happen. Because what will happen is that if she doesn't possess those characteristics of a righteous woman, that man will most likely not put her away. That man is not going to put her away, but I will tell you what he will do. He will go and marry someone else. This is what you see in the book of Esther. With Vashti, Esther, and that king. That's the example. This is so serious that Solomon's mother, a woman was telling her son, if a woman doesn't possess these characteristics, do not mess with her, don't marry her. These are the things that a righteous woman should be doing. These are the behavior of a righteous woman. Now, that advice was coming from a woman. That standard was set by a woman for her son. So, but if you do raise your daughter, all you need to worry right now, the Gentiles will totally disagree on this. All you need for your daughter is to learn how to read and write. Now, that can happen from the scripture. You can teach them from the scripture. You can teach them from the scripture how to read and write. That's all they need. They do not need a college degree. That is a standard that has been set by the Gentiles. And I hope that you're not trying to follow that standard. Women did not obtain college degree 200 years ago. And they survived. We're still here. So what you need to teach them is how to read and write while you're teaching them how to be a wife. Because if they don't possess those characteristics of a righteous woman, their marriage will be very shaky. Because that righteous man is also trained and set up to expect a righteous woman. And if you begin to tell your daughter right now that it's okay to submit herself to her husband, if you begin to teach her like Sarah, like Ruth, like Esther, like Rachel, like Leah, like Rebecca, like Susanna, like Judith, these are righteous Hebrew women that became prominent because of their humbleness and their righteousness and accepting their place as women. I'm saying this not because I'm singling women out, but because we are in a war that teaches our children otherwise. And it's not enough for your child to be wearing tassels and head covering. I'm trying to save you from pain and suffering that will come in the near future. 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, 5 years from now. This is going to be very painful for you. Because if your daughter is not happy, she is going to be telling you the things that are happening, and there is nothing you can do. If you tell her to come back home, you are taking away somebody's wife. And you don't want to do that. So you will become helpless when that day comes. And that's what I'm trying to save you. But if you can swallow your pride and decide to defy the Gentiles that have taught otherwise from what the Bible have taught, if you can swallow your pride and begin to have the mindset like Sarah, like these women in the Bible. Because even most women, even you, I don't even know, like as I said, this is being recorded, so I don't really know who most of you are or who you are that are listening. But if you look at your own lifestyle, I'm sure that you would tell me that if you had known the things you know today, 20 years ago, that your life would have been different. I'm sure you would say that. I certainly would say that. I do say that myself. I just said that like 10 minutes ago. The things I know today, if I had known it earlier, oh my goodness. My life will be way different. I will be loaning to people rather than to borrow. I will literally be loaning to people. That's what happens when people have Yah's blessings. Because part of his blessing, in order to obtain it, you have to do the things the way he told you to do it. So when he says in Deuteronomy chapter 28 that you will lend and not borrow, he's not going to throw down money from heaven. You're going to have to follow the system that he put in place in order to get to the point that you will be able to lend to people. So the things that I know right now, if I had known it years ago, I will have so many resources, so much resources, that I will be giving away money for free to people. And I will still be a radical lawkeeper, meaning that I will still be keeping all the laws, but I will still have wealth in abundance by following Yah's law, the steps and the system that he put in place. That's why Abraham was wealthy. Jacob was wealthy. How do you think that Yah threw money down from heaven to these men? No. They followed Yah's system in terms of how to live your daily life. It's no longer being done today. Today we're following the Gentile system by going to school and doing this and getting a job and being a slave to some corporation or to some company. That's slavery. So if I had done things the way that Yah wanted me to do it, by now I would have been living the kind of life he described in Deuteronomy chapter 28 from verse 1 to verse 15. I will be loaning to people. And that's what I'm trying for you to set up your children in that manner. So for your daughter, if you don't set up your daughter right now to be a righteous woman, if you don't set up your daughter to be ready to serve her husband, I said it, serve her husband. Now you know that this is not going to fly with the Gentiles. Just me saying this alone, people will be knocking their head in the wall. How dare he say that? No, we're equal. We're this, we're that. You have to train your daughter to be ready to serve her husband. And you have to be saying it so you can get into her head so she can understand that. Because what happens when you set up a girl in that manner? It makes a man to love, you make her husband to love her even more. What I just said right now, you can see it in action in the book of Esther. The reason why that king loved Esther so much and were willing to do anything for Esther was because of the Esther's attitude. Esther humbled herself down. 100,000% obedient. Will not even speak to the king without saying something like, if it pleases you, she humbled herself down. And what that does to men, what it does to men is that it makes them they become less defensive. Because men are always they are always watching out to protect their ego and protect their manhood and protect their rulership. I'm talking about real men. I'm not talking about like the kind of men we have today that I'm talking about a man who is being a man according to the Bible. So when you are, everything I'm saying right now, please read the book of Esther and you will see that in action. So that's what you saw from the beginning with Vashti, the first wife, and then Esther, the second wife, and then their husband. The first wife lost the heart of her husband because she was obedient, she was disobedient. The second wife, Esther, captured and stole I don't mean like stolen in a bad way, but you know what I mean. She stole the heart of her husband by being obedient, by bringing herself down low. That disables men. It makes a man to love you to death, a man to love you so much. Because she sees that you are different from other women. There was one time I was in this store and a woman in that store was like, hey, let me go. I need to go home. I need to go because I have to go cook for my husband. And it's like, what? You don't get to hear that all the time. A woman say, I have to go home. I need to go cook for my husband. That, so that kind of mindset. So you have to set up your daughters. I'm saying it right now. Like, I don't even know. Like, as I said, this is more, I'm warning you. This is a spiritual message, because there will be consequences in the future. And once your daughter is married, you don't really have much control. You don't even have any control over her anymore. You can't tell her what to do anymore, because she's now somebody's wife. Please see the book of Numbers. You no longer have authority over her. Her husband now has authority over her. You can no longer you can give her advice, but you can't tell her what to do, because she's now somebody's wife. So she cannot come to you and say, Mom, Daddy, my husband is telling me to do this. You can't tell her, go do this or go do that. You no longer have that right, because you no longer have authority over her. So you will become helpless. But what I'm giving you is a tip of how your daughter can capture the mind of her husband. But you are the one that has to lay that foundation. You cannot wait until she's much, much older to now tell her, this is what's going to work, this is what you need to do. No, you have to start now. Because a humble, submissive woman, this is the reason why you see Abraham was not interested in another woman. That's just the truth. Abraham was not, even though he doesn't have a child, he wasn't interested. It's exactly the reason why he wasn't interested. Because of Sarah's behavior. He had no need to have, if he was living in a house with a rebellious woman that argues with him all the time. Again, argument, that word, argument. Teach your daughter not to argue with her husband. Avoid argument at all cost. This is going to be so hard for her to do. This is going to be so hard for you to do. If you can avoid arguing, it doesn't mean that you're stupid. It doesn't mean that you will lose. No. It actually gives you an edge. When tension arises and your body is pushing you, talk, argue. Let him know what you think. Tell him that he's wrong. If you can resist that urge and shut your mouth and then wait at a more quiet time to bring up the issue and make your point. If he begins to talk again and if he begins to argue, shh. Wait some more time. Maybe after he finishes eating, you bring up that issue again and he begins to argue again, shh. Find the time that he's most happy. With soft power, with humbleness, submission, you can move mountain when it comes to a man. Again, see the book of Esther. But when you want to tell a man what to do, it reminds me of the Gentiles. It actually reminded me of Deuteronomy chapter 32, where Yah describes the Gentiles as foolish because they think that this works, but it doesn't work. When you are always arguing with a man, that man is going to despise you, but he will not tell you. Even if you're right, even if you're always right and he's always wrong, whenever you're arguing with a man and always exchanging words and always arguing and always trying to make your point and always trying to do this, whenever you're doing this, I'm telling you from a man's perspective, and I have come across a lot of women. Whenever you're doing this, whenever you're arguing with a man, these are messages you need to pass on to your daughter. Maybe I should do a video that will specifically be on this. Because this is so important that this will save you pain and will save your daughter pain in the future. Because like as I said, one of the first things that her husband will do is quickly run and go and marry another woman. Quickly. And as soon as another woman comes into the family, being the fact that the reason why that other girl came into the family was because of what her husband perceived to be her behavior, that's a problem. If your daughter's husband is going to marry another wife, let it not be because of your daughter's behavior. Typically in the Hebrew culture, when a second wife comes in, it's not typically because of the first wife's behavior. And when that's the case, then your daughter will not suffer. And even the second wife may even end up being kicked out. But if the second wife comes in because of bad feelings that her husband was having towards your daughter, and then second wife comes in, that is a spiritual abandoning. She's pretty much been spiritually abandoned. This happened in my family. It happened in my family. I saw this growing. I told you I grew up in a Hebrew culture. It happened in my family. Now, our father did not kick that woman out. In the Hebrew, according to the scripture, you can't do that. Once you marry her, that's your wife. According to Deuteronomy chapter 22. So our father did not kick her out, but what our father did is that he basically went and built a house somewhere else. That woman still lives in that house till this day with her children. So what our father did is that our father was like, you know what, I'm not going to put up with this. I'm not going to deal with this. No, to hell with this. He went and built a house somewhere else and have her go live there. Now, is that marriage? Now, biblically, technically he didn't put her out. He didn't divorce her. Technically, like when we start going by the law. When we go by the law, according to the law, he did not divorce her. But he separated himself spiritually and emotionally from her. That's the worst kind of relationship you will have with someone, especially when you live in the same house, for them to separate from you emotionally and spiritually. That love is no longer there. And these are the kind of things that can happen. The reason why this message is coming out is to save you from the pain, to save you from the suffering. It can be very painful. And these things can be avoided only if you will follow the scripture. There is so much temptation today that comes from the Gentiles that can easily deceive girls. Can easily deceive girls into thinking like the Gentiles. Now. If you are going to marry an unrighteous man, that's fine. Absolutely fine. That's okay. If you are going to marry a man that doesn't keep the law, that's you don't need any of this information. Forget it. You don't need it. I'm saying this for those who want to find a righteous man for their daughter as a husband. If that's your desire, there are dangers in that. Those dangers is what I'm trying to point out. Yes, there are dangers in finding a righteous man for your daughter. Because if that righteous man perceives, if he's truly a righteous man, he will never cheat your daughter in any way. He will never treat your daughter in any way wrong, because he knows that Yah is watching. He knows exactly what Yah says when it comes to mistreating your wife. Yah hates that. Any righteous man will know that. That is bad. That's a sin. Yah hates it, especially when that wife is new and young. Yah hates any man that does that. He doesn't want that to be done. So a righteous man knows these things and knows that he cannot do that. So he is obligated that he must love your daughter. He is obligated. You don't even have to say anything. He knows what the law says. how he's supposed to treat his wife. He know. Now, we're not talking about Christian here. We're talking about a man that keeps the law. He knows these things. So if there's a parent out there who's been teaching his son or her son these things, you better be teaching your daughter the same, the ones that apply to the girls. Because when a young man understands his duty as a husband, and when a young man is bound by the law, that's what Paul tells you. Paul said exactly what I'm talking about in Romans chapter 7. So, when a man is obligated that he must love your daughter, that he must treat your daughter right, he must cherish your daughter, and that man has no problem with any of this because he loves the law and he loves her. He has no problem. He better not catch your daughter being unrighteous. Your daughter better not become unrighteous or disobedient. And one of the easiest way for a woman to disobey, I'm telling you from a man's perspective, and then from a man's perspective who is trying to keep the law. From a man that knows what a righteous woman looks like. And I'm not talking about head covering and tassel. I'm talking about what a righteous woman looks like inside. I'm speaking from that point of view. So when I say you better not have that man catch your daughter being unrighteous. And I'm going to speak based on these examples that I gave you. One of the ways for, if I meet you right now and I don't say anything, you don't know anything about me. If I don't speak, you don't know anything about me. See, I can learn so much about you if I can talk to you for 5 minutes, unless if you don't want to talk. By talking to people, I can tell a lot about you. I can tell a lot. Now, there was one call I got like last week, and initially that person, they didn't really speak that much. And then later on in the day, we spoke again because they were trying to pull their daughter out of the school system. They are trying to pull their daughter. They say they've been watching my videos. She's probably going to watch this one too. So she says she's been watching my videos and stuff, and she's been, trying to come out of the system. So, but initially, because we didn't speak, I was busy and we didn't really speak that much. But when we spoke the second time, I was able to tell a lot. And the things I was discovering about her, I was telling her some of those things. This is the problem you have. This is the problem you have. And all glory to you. She didn't get upset. Usually people will get angry and be like, oh, you're insulting me. Why are you telling me that I'm doing this? Why are you telling me that I'm not doing it? To my surprise, she wasn't defensive. She wasn't, she didn't dispute any of the things I was telling her that she was doing. That's my job to tell you. I don't really care if you get mad or not. You can hang up. You are the one that called me. So the thing is, I'm going to tell you this. This is a big tip. So for a woman, that's why I say avoid arguing. You have to teach this to your daughters. Avoid arguing. It doesn't mean you've lost. I do it. If a case gets to certain, I'll shut up my mouth. I don't want to argue. It doesn't mean that I'm weak. It doesn't mean that I've lost the case. No, I'm just waiting for another opportunity. Instead of standing there and beginning to argue, no, I'm wrong. No, you are wrong. I am wrong. I'm right. This is why I'm right. Why are you always doing this? Blah, 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 blah. Avoid that. Arguing does not look good coming from a woman. It's very, 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 it's not good coming from a woman. Argument. Avoid it by all means. Avoid it. Most men don't want to lose an argument. The more you try to argue, the more they insist that they are right, the more the whole thing escalates. Now, it doesn't. You could be right, like as I said. So these are things that, if you remember what I said about Genesis chapter 3, verse 16, this seems like we may have to spend some time and just do this alone. Because this is going to be helpful for any woman or man, or man who wants to train their daughter who wants to find a righteous man to marry their daughter. You must know these things, because if you don't apply these things, that marriage is going to collapse. But that righteous man is not going to kick your daughter out, because he knows that he cannot do that according to the law. He knows that he can't do that. He cannot divorce. He knows that. But he will separate from your daughter spiritually. Spiritually, he will separate. Emotionally, he will separate. And what happens at that point will be a disaster for your daughter, because she will be going through emotional pains. And guess what? The man is going to go somewhere else and find some other woman that will be willing to do whatever he wants. You have to train your daughter to tell her, let me be more specific as to how to do that train. And she's the one that will benefit from these things. Train her and tell her these things. You have to compare what she must do or what she needs to do with what the world is doing, so that she will know the difference. You have to teach her, this is the way the world is doing it. People will tell you, your friends and people will tell you, that marriage is 50-50 and that it's partnership and you're in it together and that this. But this is what the Bible teaches. So you need to be able to make a contrast and show her, this is what the world is teaching, this is what it is. This is what you have to be able to do that. A woman was created to serve her husband. This is why it tells you in 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 8 and verse 9, that a woman was created for man and not man for woman. That's what Paul said. Yah created woman for man. Sarah confirms this by calling her husband my master. And then you see these men, even though they didn't have children, which at that time, any man that doesn't have a child is like useless. If you are a man at that time, you have to have a child. In the Hebrew culture, you have to have a child, especially a boy, to be able to continue your name. This is, even Yah said this, that if a man has a wife, he dies, and he doesn't have a son, his brother is supposed to marry his wife, and then any son that his wife gets from his brother will answer the name of that dead man. That's how important this in the Hebrew culture. And Yah said this. But you have Abraham. You have these men, Abraham, Jacob, these men that was basically forced into polygamy by their wives. Abraham had no intention of marrying more than one wife. It was Sarah that brought him into that. Jacob, the other two wives was his wives they made him marry those two wives. He didn't want to marry them. But why were they so satisfied with their wives, even when their wives did not give them the fruit of the womb? Why were they so satisfied? Because of the behavior of those women. If they live in a house where they will have to be arguing with their wives all the time, and argument and debate, and what it shows is act of disrespect. Like as I said, even if you're right, even if you are right, it doesn't mean conceding. Avoid argument by all means. And this is what you have to teach your daughters, because whenever an argument arises, right? Whenever an argument arises, nobody wants to lose an argument. So the person that actually keeps quiet is actually the matured one, and will most likely get their way eventually, because you disable the person who you were supposed to be arguing with. Because now you're keeping quiet, they have no idea why you're keeping quiet. But as a wife, you cannot. It turns men off, and it turns your husband off. What the hell do you think he will do if he then sees a woman that does all of these things? What do you think he will do? And knowing fully well that the law, he can marry more than one wife, because he's not a Christian, he's a Hebrew. You think that he will, why will he love you? You have to give him reason to love you. So, but again, these are things that is very vital. And this is such an information that will save you a lot of headache and pain, emotional pain in the future, because your daughter, especially when you're trying to keep the law, your daughter will be stuck in a very bad relationship. Like as I said, I saw this growing up myself. I literally saw this in my own family, where our father he was almost like, to hell with this, I'm not going to deal with this. I wasn't alive that time, but that was what he did, because he ended up marrying another wife. Now, he didn't put his wife away, the one that I'm talking about. He didn't put her away. He didn't put her away. This is my grandfather. He didn't put her away, but he went and built a house somewhere else and have her go stay in that house. So he didn't want to stay in the same house with her. So technically, she is still his wife. Emotionally, So I'm telling you, because of the things that the law says about, because of what the law said, about how to treat women, most men that loves Yah, eventually they begin to learn this thing, and they realize, oh my goodness, this is actually a big responsibility. So the law and Yah requires a man that he must treat his wife well. He must love his wife and treat her very well and take care of her. But not only is he required to do this, but he must do it genuinely with all his heart. He must do it happily. Most righteous men understands this. So as they are doing this, you better not give them a reason to not do it. Because then they can point and say, well, she's being disobedient. She doesn't listen to me. She doesn't do. Then you give them a reason to do this. You give them a reason. So no matter what the woman does, no matter what a wife does, except for sexual sin, except for sex with other men, if it's just regular disobedient or whatever disagreement, that's not enough for him to put you away, except for sexual sin. Now, he's not allowed to divorce you except for sexual sin, right? But he can do what the man, my grandfather, did. He can go build a house somewhere and put you over there. He can say, okay, we're moving over there, and he will build the house or find a house, and you all will move there, and then he will leave. He will leave you there and move. Go somewhere else. Go marry another wife. What are you going to do? Like, go move into the new... No, there's nothing you can do. So technically, according to the law of the Most High, he did not divorce you. But he will make up some reason, some excuses to separate himself from you. This is very, very, very important that most people don't understand this. So when people talk about, oh, righteous man, righteous, you have to understand, actually, dealing with a righteous man, dealing with a righteous man can be, there are dangers that are associated to that. There are dangers, and that's what I'm trying to save you from. This can be avoided if you train your daughter differently from the way that the world trains their daughters. Do you think a woman can call her husband her master today? People will laugh people will laugh at her. They'll be like, why are you crazy calling your husband your master? What? So, you shouldn't really care. You have to teach her that these things will happen. This is the way it's supposed to be done. This is the way it's done now. For your own good, you have to do it the way it used to be done. So these are things you have to teach your daughters. When it comes to sons, we have a totally different things that your sons must know. Which now I focus on the daughters. Maybe some other time, I think eventually I may have to do something specifically for daughters, or I may cut this out from the video and it will be for daughters, and I'll do another one for sons. Because for us that are trying to keep the law, these things are very important, and I don't want you to suffer. I don't want you to I don't want you to suffer. I don't want you to, not now, not tomorrow. As long as you're trying to keep the law, I don't want you to be in pain and to be in suffering, and I don't want that. And I know what will happen in the future, because it's so easy for these children. We live in an internet age now. As long as your daughters and your sons are communicating with other children, they can easily be polluted by the things they see on TV, the things they see on hear on radio, the things they see with their friends. They can easily be polluted. Now, like as I said, if your child or you are dealing with somebody who doesn't keep the law, you are fine. Everything will be okay, because they're not keeping the law. That man have also been trained by the Gentiles. So to them, it's okay for his wife, he and his wife to be 50-50, to both be working and getting a job, and he will actually force your daughter to go get a job so they can afford that big house and that car note. This is the ways of the Gentile. So if your daughter is going to be marrying a Gentile, you're fine. That's fine. You're good in terms of, somebody who doesn't keep the law. But if you are going to be seeking somebody that keeps the law, I'm trying to point out the dangers that is associated. So that marriage will work as long as your daughter is a righteous girl that sees herself that her job is to serve her husband. Now, that's a tough thing for a lot of people to accept. If that's not the case, that marriage will not work. If everyone can go to Sirach chapter 25, I'm going to show you something. This is one of the reasons why the book of Sirach has been rejected. One verse, the last verse, Sirach chapter 25. I'm going to show you something that you will never be read in the Christian church. This will never come out of the Christian church. And most Hebrew Israelites will probably not want to deal with this. But this is found in the Bible. A lot of people don't know that this is in the Bible. Now, for those that understand the biblical marriage, they will say, wait a minute, isn't this a contradiction? Go to Sirach chapter 25. I want to show you something. And what I'm going to show you right now in Sirach chapter 25 summarizes everything that I've been the message that you're hearing. What you're going to see in Sirach, if you can go to Sirach, you can Google Sirach chapter 25. You can type it into Google. You can open up your book of Sirach. However you usually get to it, get to it. Get to the book of Sirach. And I would like to have somebody read it, not me. Let me have someone else read it. If anybody who can read it, read it. If you can get to Sirach chapter 25, let me know, and then you can read. This is the reason why it's dangerous. This is what I mean that it's dangerous to deal with a righteous man. If your daughter is not righteous, then it becomes, you need to know the dangers, because your daughter will most likely be abandoned for a more righteous woman. So, Sirach chapter 25. I want someone else to read this. A lot has come out of my mouth. I want this to come out from someone else's. So, does it mean that nobody has the book of Sirach? Are you guys serious? I even say go to Google. It's in Google. It's on your phone. Just go to Google and type in Sirach 25. It's spelled Sirach. Sirach 25. Type that into Google and you see it. It's there in your phone or your computer if you don't have the hard copy.
I have it. I have a hard copy.
Well, I was looking for it. Okay.
Hello?
Yes.
I can read it.
Okay, read verse 24 to 26.
What chapter is it?
Sirach 25.
What chapter?
Sirach 25, 24 to 26.
4 to 26?
24, chapter 25, verse 24 to verse 26.
Oh, okay. From a woman, sin had its beginning, and because of her, we all die. Allow no outlet to water, and no boldness of speech to an evil wife. If she does not go as you direct, separate her from yourself.
Okay. So, thank you, Sister Lucretia.
Yes.
I told you I grew up in a Hebrew culture. And I give Yah all the praises and all the glory for that. For the opportunity to, and I saw a lot of things that at that time I had no idea what that meant. I grew up in a family where this was done. Now, our father he was not like, he wasn't emotional, like, get out of here, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm done. He didn't do that. He went and built a house and have her go live there while he lived in the main house and then married other wife. And this woman is still in that place that our father left her till this day. She is still there with her children. Although her children are all grown and all, like, you know, they're all grown. She's old now, but she's still there. Now, he didn't put her away because that would be against Yah's law. And a righteous man will know of this scripture. And Yah doesn't want men to abuse their wife. What the Bible says that men are to love their wives as Yeshua loved the church is true. One of the most fastest way for you to distance yourself from Yah as a man is to begin to abuse your wife and to not love her. That's one of the most fastest way, because Yah hates that, especially when she's young. Yah hates that. But you know what? Especially when she's righteous, when she's doing everything the way she's supposed to, when she's acting like the women in the scripture. Because then Yah is watching. But if there's any bit tiny thing that looks like she's going to behave like Eve, you know what Eve did? You remember what Eve did in the garden? That's why when we studied this the last time, I told you, any man that repeats the things that Adam did will not be saved. What did Adam do? He disobeyed Yah's law. And he was weak. He was a weak man. Any woman that repeats the things that Eve did will also not be saved. She disobeyed Yah's law. And disobeyed her husband, because disobedient to Yah's law, when she disobeyed her husband, she disobeyed Yah's law. When she disobeyed Yah's law, she disobeyed her husband. Do you see the two things? It's one. Because it was her husband that told her about Yah's law and told her not to do that. So when she did it, she not only disobeyed Yah's law, but she disobeyed her husband. So that led us to Genesis chapter 3, verse 16, where Yah said, your desire will be to control your husband, but he will rule over you. So Yah now put a spirit on women. There's a spirit that the Most High now put on women to be rebellious. And he did this as a punishment to the men. As a punishment to Adam. Because when Eve did not have the spirit of rebellion, he was so weak that he could not control her. Yah was like, okay, so when she wasn't really rebellious, you were so weak that you couldn't control her. I'm going to make her to become rebellious to you now. Now it will be more difficult for you to control her. But I will still require her to be obedient to you. You see the punishment that Yah passed around to them? So when it's pushing you that's why when you begin to understand this, you begin to understand how much of a children of Satan the Gentiles really are. I don't like to throw that statement around a lot, you will notice that I hardly call them the children of Satan. You notice that? Because it needs to be backed up. But when you begin to understand, when you begin to go deep, as we are going right now, when we begin to go deep into the scripture and into the things of when you begin to go that deep, and then you turn around and look at the Gentiles and their system, you should be, oh my goodness. You see how much of a children of Satan they are by promoting the things that Yah told us not to do, by promoting these things. So that spirit is on every woman, a spirit of rebellion that was put there to punish the men. But at the same time, the Most High now requires you that you must fight that spirit to suppress it. There's a spirit on you that is on you, making you to be rebellious and to not humble yourself down under men. But at the same time, you are required to suppress that spirit. So, even though a man, Yah will be very happy, and is always happy when a man gets married and loves his wife, and everything is fine. He loves his wife. Yah is happy. Very happy. So happy. He's so happy. Look at Deuteronomy chapter 24. Look at what the Most High said there. Deuteronomy chapter 24. From verse 5. Deuteronomy chapter 24 from verse 5. When a man has taken a new wife, he shall not go out to war or be charged with any business. He shall be free at home 1 year and bring happiness to his wife, whom he has taken. So, because when a man, gets married and then a month later he goes off to some, whatever, that's not really good for the new wife. She needs to enjoy her marriage at least for a year before he goes off to whatever business that he wants to go to. It doesn't mean that he's not going to be doing business, while, within the first 1 year. No, you can still run your business, do your, your farming, your whatever, because you have to eat. The Bible doesn't say that. The Bible did not say that you should be home and not do anything for 1 year. No. You still need to have an income to feed that new wife, because you're not going to be laying in the bed every day for 1 year and not have any food. Your wife will die of hunger. That's not what Yah is saying. So you can still run your little business and have your income, but to go off on some travel and be there for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, no. Or go to war, which is most likely that you will die, no. How does the Gentile do this today? They go on honeymoon for like 2 weeks or 1 week, and they come back and off they go. Yah says 1 year. The honeymoon is 1 year. 1 full year. Now, between a marriage between a man and a woman, let me ask you, who do you think is most likely to want to go? Who do you think is most likely to want to be on the go? To have to go travel somewhere? To have to go this place or go there or go do this? It's the man. But Yah is saying, no, slow down. that is how much interested he is in, but this is only when the woman is not rebellious. Because we also have Sirach chapter 25, verse 24 to 26. It's very clear. I haven't even quoted it. I haven't even said it. I just let it be, sink in after the sister read it. It's very clear. So, righteous men do know these things. They will be taught these things. Now, if you read Proverbs 31, you can see why Solomon's mother was speaking that way. She wasn't anti-women. You see the way the requirement that he's putting that his wife must see on a woman. I would certainly put the same requirement or even more for my son. And when you do the right thing and train your daughter the right way, there won't be any problem. Because the good thing about this law, one of the things about the law is that when you're dealing with people, you don't have to be scared if they are keeping the law. Because you know that there's something between you and them, the law. They are obligated to follow the law. You don't have to worry about them stealing from you. You don't have to worry about them robbing you, raping you, cheating you. Because if they are genuinely keeping the law, they can't do any of those. Same thing applies to marriage. I know of someone that we used to be friends when I wasn't really taking the law seriously. And then one day he traveled to a different country, and then he called me. He was almost like, guess where I am, or guess where I'm coming from, something like that. It's been a long time. And I was like, where? He's like, oh, I just went to the hotel with this woman. So, and I was like, what? Because he's supposed to be a Christian. Now, this was a while ago. So he's supposed to be a Christian. So, but he told me, he's like, oh, he doesn't mess with women in his city where he lives. And I was like, why? He's like, because the city, is too small. People may see him with another woman and tell his wife. But he gets into a plane, travels to a different country, and then he calls me on the phone after he finished fornicating or committing adultery. You see, that's what people will do when they don't keep the law. When you're dealing with people who don't keep the law, that's what happens. When they are in your face, they behave, they do everything right. They will never look at any other woman. They will never look at any other man. But as soon as you're not there, they do otherwise. There was one Gentile one night, one time, he was on the phone with his wife. He where I met him, he traveled from another state. So he was on the phone saying goodnight to his family, to his wife. After he finished, he was like, I love you. And then he clicked the phone, and then he asked me, where is the nearest strip club? And I was like, what? You just told your wife you love her. You turn around and ask me the nearest strip club. So you can go stand and look at naked women. See, these are things that happen when people don't keep the law. That's why I don't like dealing with people who don't keep the law, because I can't really trust them. I'm always scared. I'm watching over my shoulder. I can't trust them. They can do anything. Anybody who is not keeping the law can do anything. Whenever. You can't trust them. But when people are keeping the law, when someone is keeping the law, then you have peace of mind. You have nothing to fear. Because you know that they are scared of Yah. And Yah is watching them. So going back to a righteous man is only obligated. A righteous man is only obligated. A righteous man is only obligated to do all these things for your daughter, as long as she is righteous and submissive and doing all these things. If not, then that Yah will not hold that man responsible for separating himself from her. And what happens at that point is what I'm trying to save you from. What happens from that moment on is pain. Pain for your daughter. When the man will move on and find another woman and marry her. Your daughter will be left in a quagmire, in a situation where she's trying to obey the law, so she can't really be with another man, but she's stuck. Her husband is not dead, but she doesn't have her husband either. I'm trying to save you from that pain and suffering, and it starts by you teaching your daughter right now. I said that if your daughter doesn't behave, if she's rebellious, if she's not submissive, if she's not following her husband, when you give your daughter to her husband, you give her to him. That's why you read in the book of Genesis, what did Laban say to Jacob? Serve me 7 more years, and I will give her to you. I'm going into deep into Hebrew culture now, and Gentiles may not understand this. What you mean? Like you what? Your daughter is your daughter is not a product. Your daughter is not something that you give. No, in the Hebrew culture, you give your daughter. You give her in marriage. Read Deuteronomy chapter 22. Deuteronomy chapter 22, and you see that from verse 13 to verse 21. The man says to the elders, I gave my daughter to this man as a wife. I don't want to go into arranged marriage because as a parent, a dad or a mom, it's your responsibility to find a wife or a husband for your daughter or for your son. Read Judges chapter 14. You see Samson, when he found a wife, he went back home and told his parents, go get me that girl for me. Read Genesis 24. You see Abraham arranging marriage for Isaac. When they finally brought the girl, Isaac did not say, I don't like her. She's not tall or she's short or she's... No. So in the Hebrew culture, we do something called arranged marriage. The Hebrew Ishmaelites are still doing it. But of course, people call them terrorists. Because if you begin to keep Yah's law, you'll be called a lunatic. You'll be called a fool. You'll be called crazy. They will accuse you of joining a cult. They may even call you a terrorist. They will call you a child abuser. That you're abusing your children. That you hate your children by refusing to send them to the heathens, for the heathen to educate them. By letting her get married at a young age. By all of these things, they will accuse you. So that's the same way they accuse the Hebrew Ishmaelite today of being terrorists. But when you actually look at the whole situation and you look at the actual damages that has been done, those that accuse the Ishmaelite of being terrorists are the terrorists. If you look at the number of people that has been killed, millions. So those that tell you that the Muslims are terrorists, when you actually look at facts in terms of between those people, between the Europeans and the Muslims, when you look at who has killed more people, and you are an honest person, you can tell that the Europeans are the terrorists. When you compare the destruction and the havoc, the abomination, the terror that they rained down on the Iraqis, the Libyans, the people in Panama. I'm talking about the recent ones. I'm not even going to say anything about the Japanese with nuclear bomb being dropped on them. So when you begin to follow the Bible, you'll be called of all of these things. And typically those that do the accusation, they are the ones who are guilty. That's what Satan does, to distract you from what he's doing. Should I mention the Native Americans or the Hebrews? So, you have to also begin to think about arranging marriage for your daughter and for your son. It's never too late. It needs to start. I'm not going to go into in terms of age of marriage. You know that when she sees her period, she's ready. 1 Corinthians chapter 7:36. We broke that down when we went back into Leviticus chapter 15, and we saw what Paul was talking about. When she sees that first blood, her period, as soon as she begins to see it, she's ready for marriage. Now, the Gentiles don't want for her to get married. They want her to finish college. This is a plot and a deception from Satan, because Satan wants her to lose her virginity to some strange man or boy out there in the name of boyfriend and dating. That's a game that Satan is playing, and if you fall for that, that's your problem. Even some of the Gentiles will admit to you. The Catholics some of them will admit that Mary was between the age of 13 and 14 when she had Yeshua. So the age, when you look at the scriptures and you go through the scriptures, the apocryphas, you see that girls typically get married at around the age of 12, 13. Now you know that's the Gentile says, no, what? She's a baby. That's a devil speaking. But because you're not spiritual enough, you cannot see it. Because you are not spiritual enough, you cannot see the devil is speaking. The goal is to delay your daughter getting married. That's what it's all about. So that she can lose her virginity, she can throw it away and give it to some dog that will abandon her and move on. That's what this is all about. That's why they have the education system for the girls. Why do you think Oprah went to South Africa and built school for girls only? When the education system in Chicago basically collapsed or crumbling at that time, why didn't she build school in Chicago? Why would she go to South Africa and build schools specifically for girls? Because Oprah is an unconscious agent of Satan. Satan wants your daughter to lose her virginity to some random boy. The system that has been put in place to make that happen is to give you the impression, which they gave you already, to give you the impression that she's too young, that she should wait until she finishes her school. These things sound good. But this is things that are coming from the Gentiles, because they are doing the work of Satan. Just like you see in Revelation chapter 13, verse 2. They get their power, authority, and throne from Satan. You will never see Satan with your eyes today, physically, because he has outsourced his job. Satan is just relaxing and watching. He has the responsibility, duty of something that he was supposed to do. He passed it on to the Gentiles to do it for him. That's confirmed 100% in Revelation chapter 13 verse 2. The whole chapter of Revelation chapter 13 is talking about the fourth kingdom that will rule the world. It describes that kingdom as a beast. If you go to Daniel chapter 7 verse 23 to 25, Daniel chapter 7 verse 23 to 25 tells you that that beast is a nation, the fourth kingdom that will rule the world. As I'm speaking right now, you are living within that fourth kingdom, and they are doing the work of the Satan. That's why they promote against the law of Yah. That's why they promote all this unrighteousness. And that's what's going on. If you're spiritual enough, you will be able to see it. It's clear. It is clear what's going on. It's biblical. Your eyes are your God have opened your eyes to see it. I don't know if you're gonna see it. I don't know. So anyway, so these things are the things that like as I said, Yah requires a man to do all this as long as she's obedient, as long as she's following her husband. Following, that's the thing. You see, the church followed Yeshua. You never saw anywhere where the church was arguing with Yeshua. They followed like sheep. Yeshua followed Yah. You never saw anywhere where Yeshua was arguing with Yah. Yeshua followed Yah like sheep. Even when he wanted something and Yah did not do it, he still followed and did exactly what Yah told him to do. So, you go to Numbers chapter 5. I may not read that, but you can read it yourself. You go to Numbers chapter 5 and you see what Yah said between a man and his wife. I feel so tempted to read it right now, but maybe I should leave it for you to read. Numbers chapter 5. But it says something in Numbers chapter 5. It says that if a spirit of jealousy comes upon a man, if a spirit of jealousy comes upon a man, and he begins to suspect that his wife is doing something, where will that spirit of jealousy come from? Because Yah will put that spirit on him and he will sense it. Something is not right. Yah will put that spirit of jealousy. There are different spirits. Yah has different kind of spirit and different creatures. Yah can put a spirit of jealousy on someone. And he will do it to a man. When when a woman, you see, when you're dealing with a righteous man, you can go underground, 20 feet underground. You can put poison in his food and put him in coma. And he's in coma for like 2 months. And then you dig underground and go have sex with a man. And then come back up and nobody saw you. And then 2 months later, he comes back out from coma. When that spirit of jealousy comes upon him, he will be able to tell that you did that. Yah, your God, will put a spirit of jealousy on that man, even though there is no possibility for him to have caught you doing what you did. Yah will put a spirit of jealousy upon him. And then there are certain things that he's supposed to do, which will make you to confess what you did. And then will lead to him separating himself from you. Why will Yah do this? Because Yah doesn't want, because if you go be with another man, you are defiled. I'm not going to go too deep into that right now because that's like kind of, I'm not going to go too deep. But according to Deuteronomy chapter 24, Deuteronomy chapter 24 verse 1 to 4, Deuteronomy 24 verse 1 to 4, when you are married to a man and another man has sex with you, that's it, you're defiled. Your husband can no longer touch you. That's it, done. And you have to teach your daughter this. If she loses her virginity to her husband, if a man has sex with her, her husband can no longer have sex with her. done. If that man fears Yah, he will never do it again because she's defiled. That's why if a man does rape her, that man is to be put to death. If I have a wife and you are a man and maybe an evil spirit comes upon you, or maybe you got drunk, whatever the hell came upon you, and you rape my wife, I'm sorry. But unless if I don't love her. If I don't love her, then that would be an excuse for me to get rid of her. But if I do love her, the only way I'm going to be with her again sexually is if you're dead. If you rape her. Because it's not her fault. But if she does willingly go do it, Yah will put a spirit of jealousy on me. We're going deep right now. We're going deep right now because this is leading us to something that you commonly see today on the street. So Yah will put, according to Numbers chapter, anyway, let's just look at Numbers chapter 15 because I don't want to keep dealing with that particular point without actually pointing out where Yah talked about it in Numbers chapter 5. I don't want to keep talking about that spirit, like talking about it with authority without actually showing you where Yah talked about it. I don't want to do that. And that's why I can't resist the temptation to read that place. I don't want to be saying anything or making any point without actually pointing it out where it's actually written down. So in Numbers chapter 5, Numbers chapter 5, Yah says in Numbers chapter 5 from verse 11, and Yah spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Israel and say to them, if a man's wife goes astray and behave unfaithful towards him. Verse 13, and a man lies with her carnally, and it is hidden from his eyes, hidden from the eyes of her husband, and it is concealed that she has defiled herself, and there was no witness against her, nor was she caught. Verse 14, if the spirit of jealousy comes upon him, and he becomes jealous of his wife, who has defiled herself, or if the spirit of jealousy comes upon him, and he becomes jealous of his wife, although she has not defiled herself. So this jealousy is not like the kind of jealousy as you know today. This is pretty much a jealousy that, what this jealousy is talking about here is a jealousy that makes him to begin to suspect that today people will call it an affair, that she had an affair. That's what people will call it today. That's the jealousy that is being talked about here. So this is not like a regular jealousy that you know. Just like he will all of a sudden be like, something, she did something. So she was now supposed to be put into a situation where she will have to take an oath. She would take an oath in front of Yah and swear that she didn't do it. And of course, no woman that fears Yah will lie. So the reason why Yah will put that spirit of jealousy, or that spirit of jealousy will be there, is because Yah does not want a man to be having sex with a woman who has been defiled. That's an abomination. Deuteronomy chapter 24, verse 1 to 4. So, with this little information, can you now begin to see why the Muslim women dress the way they dress? Can you now begin to see the way, I'm talking about the people that you can see today. Because what they do today, they got it from the Hebrew women of the Bible. Oh yes. The culture you see the Muslim women display today predates the Muslim religion. The culture that they practice is an Arab culture. The Arabs came from Ishmael. Ishmael came, of course, from Abraham, right? The Muslim women today behave differently than other women. They are very, 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 very private. They don't like to talk to men. They don't like to, they're very, very private. They behave like women you see in the Bible, which is not a coincidence. But you see the way they dress, the way they cover themselves, like we see in Sirach, chapter 42. They cover their charms, which is the butt, the behind, and the breast. They cover themselves moderately, only to be revealed to their husband. Now, why do people dress, let me use a term that people use today, sexy? Oh, she dressed sexy. Oh, he's sexy. Why do women that expose their body and wear tight clothing and tight jeans and tight this and short skirt, why do they do that? Ask them. They themselves will tell you that dress that way so they can dress sexy. They will tell you that they dress sexy because they want to attract a man. Women that are half naked, women that wear tight jeans, short skirt, tight clothing, tight this, tight that, they dress like that to attract men. They're not dressing like that to attract women. Women that wear that are not wearing it to attract women. No. Majority, maybe some, the lesbians. Majority of them dress like that to attract a man. Now, let me ask you, why would a married woman dress that way if she already has a husband? I'm going somewhere with this. We're going to go back to the righteous man. So why would a married woman wear a tight jeans, wear a short skirt, tight this, tight that, everything tight, 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 tight? Why would she dress like that if she already has a husband? Because when people dress like that, the way the world sees it is that she's dressing sexy. And that means to attract a man. So, when your daughter dresses like that, or when she's not dressing like that, then she finds a righteous man as a husband. Then they get married. Then she begins to dress like that. Do you see how that righteous man will see that? The righteous man will see that your daughter is beginning to become interested in men outside. Just by simple change of dressing. Just by exposing their body. There was something that was interesting that happened in France. It happened in France. I know that people who don't understand the Hebrew culture and the Muslim culture may still be scratching their head and wondering, why do they do this? Because in France, they passed a law to ban veil. That veil that you see Muslim women wear. The French government passed a law to ban it in France. The Muslim and the Arab women in France was on the street protesting, fighting for their right to wear that veil. Now, the people that proposed the law in France was thinking that these women in Arab, that they were being forced to wear head covering. Now, when they passed the law, they were shocked because those that came on the street to protest was not Arab men, but women. Fighting the right to cover themselves. fighting the right to dress moderately. Think about that. Do you see the similarity between them and people like Sarah? Because I tell you something, and you have to tell your daughter this. You got to tell your daughter this. I'm going to tell you this. If you want to behave like women in the Bible, which is the way that the Most High wants you to behave, if you want to behave like that, people will laugh at you. People will say you're crazy. You've lost your mind. Don't you know that this is 2018? Don't you know that this is 2019? Don't you know that this is 2020? People will think you're crazy. What? Why are you following that man? Why are you doing everything? So it's important to pass this, so let your daughter know that so that she'll be prepared. She needs to be prepared about these things. So if I have a wife and the Bible teaches women in Sirach chapter 42. Sirach chapter 42, it's clear. You see it. It tells you to let your daughter cover her charm. Her charm, the nakedness of your nakedness is for your husband and not for other men. And nakedness is not only when you take off all your clothes. According to Yah, according to the Most High, your nakedness is not only when you take off all your clothes. Your nakedness is, Yah defines it differently. The Most High God defines it differently, different from the way that people defines it. So I gave you an example, and I'm going to give it again. If I show you this, I'm going to try to just put a covering on this. I'm sure that most of you will not be able to tell what this is. I have something in here. If I ask you to describe what it is and what it looks like, you most likely may not be able to describe it. What I have in here, because it's covered. It's covered. That's why you can't really see it. You know that I have something, but you don't know what's inside. All right. This is the way that Yah wants us to dress. This is the way that the Most High wants us to. This is a serious issue, and what I'm showing you here is true. Yeah, and this is found where? Jubilees chapter 3:31. Jubilees 3:31. Yah talks about covering, and he told us not to cover ourselves the way the Gentiles covers themselves. You see how Yah always talks about the Gentiles, and he doesn't say anything good about them. So if you're wondering why does he always talk about the Gentiles, why does Brother Tobiah always talk about the Gentiles? It's like he hates them or something, because the Bible also speaks against them. Unless they begin to keep the law, like you see in Acts chapter 10 with Cornelius. When he began to keep Yah's law, then Yah found, he found favor in Yah's sight. And Yah loved him. So if they don't keep the law, Yah always speaks against them. And I will do the same. Am I going to be popular doing that? No. Are you going to be uncomfortable hearing that? Yes. Do I care? No. So when it comes to covering, Yah told us to cover ourselves and not to cover ourselves the way that the Gentiles cover themselves. So when you speak of covering, I covered this. You most likely cannot tell what I'm holding here because it's covered. You most likely cannot tell. Now, this is the way we're supposed to, our clothing was supposed to be covered, even for men too. For men too. They're supposed to be showing your quote-unquote six-pack and all that. Supposed to put on some clothing. Cover yourself, wear some clothing, put on some shirt. All right, let's see a different way of covering. Now, if I do this, then obviously you will be able to tell what I have. I'm going to make sure I cover it, but cover it in a different way, the way we cover our body today. So if I hold this up and everything is all tight, it's all tight up. It's all, you see the difference between now and before when I covered it earlier? You can see the difference. So if you look closely, if you look and you pay, if you pay attention, you should be able to tell what I have here. You see, you can see the, you know, you can see you know, you can clearly see the shape, right? You see the shape, but on the other example I gave you, you couldn't see the shape. But on this example, you could see the shape. I'm going somewhere with this because as a law keeper, we need to understand this and we need to apply it. So you can see the shape of this thing. But before you see that there's a difference. You said this is bigger right here. This is bigger, this is smaller. You see the top, you see the shape. The point I'm trying to make is that you can clearly see this is what happens when women, this is what I'm holding. This is a bottle. This is a little bottle. So when you wear a tight jeans or tight pant or short skirt, men love looking at that. Men love looking at that. I have a car that has a tinted window. My car has a tinted window, right? So I could see people when I'm driving, and sometimes they may not see me. Or when so I do watch men. When a woman goes by, I think it was yesterday. It was yesterday I was driving and I saw these two people that was talking, right? I was driving and of course by the time I was pulling up, they almost finished talking and the woman was walking away. Either yesterday or 2 days ago. The woman was walking away and this man turned around and I was looking at her. And that was not like a normal, like really good look. It was like a dirty look, looking at her behind. This is what we do, men. This is what men do. And a lot of women understand this. That's why they dress that way. But Yah told us not to do it. So if I have a wife and she's trying to dress sexy, who are you trying to seduce? Why would you want to dress sexy to go out? You have to train your daughters that these kind of things, because a righteous man will see this and it's not going to sit very well because he knows what the Bible says. So if he's going to work his butt off to do everything that he's required to do, to provide for your daughter, to love your daughter, to do everything and protect your daughter, if he's going to do all that, then your daughter better not give him reason. Your daughter better not give him reason to stop doing those things. And that's what you see in the book of Esther, with Vashti, the king, and Esther. That's what you see there. So this is a very valuable information for those that have daughters. Very important information. Honestly, I had no idea that we're going to go into this, but I don't really... My plan is not, I don't sit down and be like, okay, we're going to study this. Okay, let me write these things down. Let's do this. I don't do that. Every scripture you see that we went through here today, it just keeps coming. It keeps coming. It keeps coming. And as it comes, we read. So this is what Yah wants you to know. And Yah loves his people. He doesn't want his people to suffer. And by applying these things and teaching your daughter these things, that will save her a lot of pain in the future. That will save you a lot of pain in the future. Because when your daughter is unhappy, I don't care. Well, it depends on how you love your daughter. But when your child is unhappy, you should be unhappy. You will be unhappy if you truly love your child. But this is something that will save you those kind of problems. And you should train your daughter. Talk about it, like Yah says, talk about the law all the time. In the morning, in the evening, you should train your daughter. You should do something. Why not make it ceremonial? Make this ceremonial. Why not say to your daughter, Say to your daughter. So that in this way, it can go into her head. It can sit in so that it will be memorable. She will understand. It's one thing to keep talking. Why not make it as a program and say, okay, for a month, every day or this day or that day, we are going to learn about how to be a wife. Make this a program with your daughter and you teach her. So that there will be a set time that you both will sit down and you begin to teach her these things. And teach her, you know what? They don't do this thing in the world anymore. This is the way the world is doing it, but this is the way you have to do it. This is the way they do it. This is the way you have to do it. Your God created you for your husband. This is why Sarah called her husband her master. There's a lot of women that will have problem with that today. There's a lot of women that will have problem with this, and their excuse will be, well, that was back then. What's the difference between back then and now? And if Yah told us to go back to the old ways, Jeremiah chapter 6, verse 16 to 22. So these are things that if you can teach your daughter these things, it doesn't mean that she's going to do everything, but if you would at least do your part and teach her these things, that will save a lot of trouble, because like Abraham, like Jacob, I'm going to tell you, even if there is something that she lacks, because when you train her this way, her behaving this way will make her husband to love her, guaranteed. It will make her husband to love her so much, and he would not really have any need to go marry someone else. He will have no need to go do that. But when he feels that, you're being rebellious, you're doing this, you're doing that, you saw in the Bible, you saw in Sirach chapter 25, verse 24 to verse 26, the Bible tells men, if a woman will not do what you say, separate yourself from her. Now, when they separate, they're not going to throw her out on the street. They'll probably just find a place and just pay for her to stay there, and they will move on. Now, is that what you want for your daughter? For her to get married and not live with her husband? To be married to a man that will come and see her once a week or whatever? Is that what you want? Is that what you're preparing right now? That's why this is, because the Bible does say that. I'm sure this is probably the first time you're reading it or you're seeing it. The Bible does tell men to separate from a woman that will not listen or do what they say. That's in the Bible. That's not what I said. Everything I'm telling you revolves around that. But it's in the Bible. And these men are going to see that. So, in other hand, Yah requires them that they must love your daughter and cherish her and provide for her and treat her like an egg. In other hand, your daughter is required that she must be absolutely 100% in obedience and following her husband, meaning that her husband guides her every move, tells her what to do, tells her, and you have to teach her that it's okay. You have to ask your husband before you do something. That's okay. You have to let her know that it's okay. Oh, by the way, that the world will say it's not okay, but it's okay because Yah said so. When she begins to behave like that, that will really begin to build the love, and nobody will come between her and her husband, and her husband will never allow that. So if anybody talks about, why don't you go marry another woman, he will be like, no, I'm not gonna. Why would I want to marry another woman? I have my wife. So these are things that Satan teaches against, and Satan has never came out in real life and teaches these things. But these teachings are in the world today. It wasn't being promoted and taught by the Chinese, not by Africans, not by Latinos. These countries and continents don't have organizations that goes around and promote quote unquote women's right and feminism. It comes from the West. That's the truth. If it makes you uncomfortable, I don't really care, because it's still the truth. But that's what Satan wants, because then it results in broken homes. You just went through a very deep information right now that will save you a lot of stress. That will make your daughter, your son-in-law, to love your daughter to death, like to love your daughter. And eventually you yourself may actually end up benefiting, like we see in the book of Tobit. In the book of Tobit, the girl that the young man ended up marrying, the girl that he ended up marrying, when her parents was older, her husband took in his in-law. So because they trained their daughter very well. They trained their daughter, according to the law. So when their daughter got married, when they got older, their son-in-law took them in. That's what you want. You don't want to be old and be by yourself and be lacking and be. It will be nice if your son-in-law can take you in and provide for you and make sure and take care of you in your old age. But that cannot happen if he's having problems with your daughter, and that can definitely not happen if he's married to other wives, which can be prevented by the behavior of your daughter. So the bottom line here is, I'm going to be specific. I don't want to be vague. I'm going to be specific as to what to do. Teach your daughter to follow her husband and follow his directions, because that's exactly what it says in Sirach chapter 32, Sirach chapter 24. Sirach 25, verse 24 to 26. The Bible tells men to separate from the woman that will not follow their direction. And your son-in-law will do that in a heartbeat. So this is a very deep information that will, like as I said, will save a lot of problems and a lot of stress, and may even benefit you in the future. If I have a wife, and if like as I said, the example is in Tobit. It's in Tobit. It will eventually benefit you. So I want to close with specific. I want to close this with being specific. I want to wrap this off with being specific. And that specificness will not be popular. That's the whole point. We're living in a world where things are being done upside down. If you get an 80 years old woman right now listening to me, she will not really feel much strange in the things I'm saying. 80 years old woman will not feel more. Everything I've said about clothing, how to dress and everything, it's not a big deal for them. Being a housewife, loving your husband, having babies, serving your husband. An 80 years old woman, go and talk to any 80, 85 years old woman. These things are not strange. These old people right now are not happy the way the world is going. They think it's crazy. Most old people will tell you that this is not the way things was done. So the information I'm giving you right here, I'm going to be specific. It's not going to be popular, but you have to also include it when you teach your daughters. It's not going to be popular, but that's the whole point. So let's be specific on what to do. But we have to be very specific when you do these things. The Bible says, train up a child in the way that they should grow. We have to be very, very specific in terms of the things we're going to be teaching them is very unconventional. It's it's no longer accepted today. It's no longer practiced. People that do it are laughed at. You have to also convey that to them so that when they do go out in the real world, people begin to look at them funny, begin to say things to them, they will be prepared because they already know that it's coming. They know that those kind of things are coming. So this is nothing, it's going, you have to do it properly. So if you're simply just teaching them what the Bible says and not also teaching them what's out there, like you're not teaching them what they will actually encounter in the real world, then when they come out and people are seeing that they're strange, that they're weird, they will they will not understand. They will begin to be like, who am I? Why am I? Like, they will be very confused. So you have to let them know that, okay, this is what's going on. This is what we are trying to do. Okay, these are the things that the Most High said that we should do. Or these are the way that the world is doing it. But we are not going to do it that way. That's the reason why you don't have a boyfriend. Because we don't do boyfriends. Do you know why you don't have a boyfriend? Because we do not do boyfriend and girlfriend relationship. That's not biblical. We don't do that. What we do is betrothing. Okay, that's what we do. We do betrothing. It's okay if a boy say that he likes you, but that boy needs to come and talk to your parents. Any boy that refuses to come and talk to your parents, then that boy doesn't like you. You have to teach that to your daughter. So no sneaking around. If a boy says that he likes her, that's okay, but that boy needs to come and talk to you. And then you have to investigate that boy and make sure that that boy is good for her. And then you talk about marriage. Do you like her just to like her, or do you want to marry her? As soon as you begin to talk about marriage, most of them will run away because they're coming because of sex. They're coming because they want to have sex with her. That's why they're interested in your daughter. So these are things you have to teach your daughter, but it's very important to make sure that they also understand what the world is currently doing. Because what the world is currently doing is what they are going to see when they go out into the real world. But they need to know that even though the world is doing it, just like the world was doing it in the time of Noah, even though the world is doing it, doesn't mean that we should do it. And actually, in Jeremiah chapter 6, verse 16 to 22 is calling us to go back to the old ways. And this calling is for everyone, both Hebrews and Gentiles. Numbers chapter 15, verse 15 and verse 16. Numbers 15, 15 and 16. The Most High God said that the same law he gave to the Hebrews apply to the Gentiles, to the strangers, the non-Hebrews. They are the Gentiles. To all the non-Hebrews, same law applies to everyone forever. He said that the same custom, when I talk about Hebrew culture, the same custom that applies to the Hebrews also applies to the Gentiles. And this is what Paul was trying to tell you in Ephesians chapter 4. Ephesians chapter 4 from verse 17. Paul was calling on the Gentiles to go back and begin to keep the laws, to abandon their own ways, which is based on lewdness, greediness, and not knowing the Most High. Paul says, abandon all that and begin to keep the law. This is found in Ephesians chapter 4. Ephesians chapter 4 from verse 17. So this law applies to everyone. This applies to everyone. So it's important to train your daughter. And when you do train your daughter this way, and if a boy talks to her, she needs to refer that boy to you. Now, this is something that will be very strange to the Gentiles today in the world. But in the Hebrew culture, that's the way it's done. You see Samson seeing the wife that he wants to marry, the girl that he wants to marry, but he couldn't even go talk or do anything. He has to go back home and tell his parents to go marry her for him. You see the same thing in Jubilees. In Jubilees with the she chains. You see the same thing in Genesis 24 with Isaac and Abraham and his servant and Rebekah. That's the way it's done in the Hebrew culture. These things matters because the Most High is calling us to go back to those ways. If you think that Yah can give us something to follow, you think that Yah can give us something to follow, and then it will be followed by some people, and then all of a sudden it's abandoned, and we now follow man-made ways. Think of the way they do wedding today. That's not biblical. Everything that they do today. So if you think that the things that Yah told us to do will be put aside as we are following man-made laws and man-made system today, and that the Most High will keep quiet, if you think that, that's a dangerous thinking. That's a dangerous thinking. That's the reason why he tells you in Isaiah chapter 24. Isaiah chapter 24 from verse 1 to verse 6. Isaiah 24 from verse 1 to 6. And Malachi chapter 4 verse 1 to verse 6. But specifically in my Isaiah 24 verse 1 to 6, the Most High tells you the reason why he's going to destroy this world. And it's going to happen through nuclear destruction. Russia just revealed their newest nuclear weapon. It's unstoppable. Nothing can, it used to be as of a few months ago that they have some system that can actually detect the bomb and stop it. Russia just destroyed all of that. So they can destroy any country, anywhere in the world within a short period of time, and nothing can stop that. Of course, obviously, except But all of those defense systems that all these countries have spent years building is pretty much defenseless at this point. Because that nuclear weapon uses a different system. It uses a different system to carry the nuclear bomb. And that system cannot be detected. And even the Americans, I was watching this, even the Americans will admit to you that yes, they cannot detect that. It's undetectable. And then on the other side, you have North Korea doing what they're doing. On the other side, you have the Iranians developing their own. The future does not look good. I'm not trying to scare you. But the Bible keeps talking about fire, 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 fire. Yah describes it for you in Isaiah 24. That he will burn the earth and very few men will be left. People will burn, very few will be left. And then he tells you the reason why he will do it. Because they broke his laws and violated his everlasting covenant. Which you see in Exodus chapter 31 from verse 12 to verse 18. That's the Sabbath. That's that everlasting covenant. That's why this is very important. So if you think that right now the Messiah is just watching us. This is just like as it was in the time of Noah. Think about that. Yeshua said that before he comes back, it will be as it was in the time of Noah. Everybody was going about their business, doing whatever the hell they want, doing all the things. Everybody was doing that until it was too late. Yah is watching us right now to see what we will do. And you can clearly see this in Malachi chapter 3. Malachi chapter 3 from verse 14. Malachi chapter 3, read from verse 14. Yah is just watching. Those that are claiming that we don't have to keep the law, they are claiming. Those that are claiming that we have to keep the law, they are claiming. Those that are trying to keep the law with all their heart and trying. Those that are just picking and choosing the ones that they want to keep. Everybody's just going about doing their business. And Yah is watching us. But there will come a time he will say, okay, enough is enough. All right, I've had enough. Enough. Then he will gather those that are genuinely keeping his law. He will protect them. The rest he will first of all punish and then destroy. Check it out. Matthew chapter 13 from verse 24. Yeshua described what I just said now. So that's why this is very important. So to do this and do it properly, you have to prepare your daughter to understand that, this is what the Most High wants us to do. People are going to laugh at you when you begin to do it, but that's okay. And you are supposed to follow your husband. Once you get married, your husband now has authority over you. He is now your authority according to the book of Numbers. You are now to follow him. Whatever he tells you, you do. Do not argue with him. My daughter, I'm telling you, you don't argue with your husband. You don't do that. You see in the book of, it doesn't mean that you're wrong. It doesn't mean that you're stupid. Like as I said, I try to do this myself because I realize that if an issue comes up and I begin to argue with somebody, we don't get anywhere. He or she, especially he, is trying to claim that he's right. I'm trying to claim that I'm right. We're not going to get anywhere. Most people will not say, okay, I'm sorry. What I want to do is I want to be in a situation that I say, you know what? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And then they will turn around and look at you and they'll be like, no, I'm sorry. It was my fault. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Because they realize that they were wrong. But once it goes into argument, they don't want to lose an argument. You don't want to lose an argument. At the end, you're not going to get anywhere. But if you begin to apologize, most honest people will be like, you know what? So, no, you're not sorry. I'm sorry. You know what? It was my fault. It was my fault. But like 2 seconds ago, they are claiming that it wasn't their fault. But as soon as you bow out, as soon as you like withdraw and you're like, okay, you win, then they turn around and be like, no, it was my fault. You see what I mean? It's, so you have to, these are things that the opposite of these things has been taught to you. The opposite of these things has been taught to that you are strong, you're powerful, you're equal with your husband, you're supposed to do this. All this garbage that, that doesn't work. And you see the amount of divorce today. It's crazy. The amount of divorce, and most of the time the women tend to suffer more. Because a 70 years old man, a 65 years old man, if he has a little bit of money, he can find a woman. He can find a young girl in her 20s. But it's not so easy for the woman. It's not so easy. So I see pains. I see sufferings. You look at the amount of divorce only in America alone. Crazy. So anyway, these are things that you need to pass on. And we have an example in Genesis 29, 28, but you don't really see the full details in the book of Genesis. You have to go to Jubilees to see the full details. Because when Jacob became scared, Jacob had a feeling that his father-in-law was going to kill him because they were doing business together. You see that thing I always say about not trusting people who are not keeping the law. You can't trust them. They can kill you. They can steal from you. They can cheat you. So they were doing business together. And Jacob realized that, you know what, this man is going to kill me. I need to get out. Because his jealousy was becoming too much. He was becoming jealous of, he kept changing the deal that they made. Yah kept blessing Jacob. His father-in-law kept changing the deal. And then Yah will turn around and bless him on the other side. So at some point, Jacob decided, you know what, I need to get out of this place. Because this man is going to kill me. Either poison me or stab me to death or something. So when Jacob decided to leave, this was a very, very important decision. Life and death decision. He told his wives, pack your things. We are getting out of this place. Now, mind you, that they are getting out of their father's house because he is married to these two girls and he's doing business with their father. So he is trying to take them away from their father, and he's trying to do it in secret. So he told two of them, he told them to pack, not two plus the other two, he told them to get their stuff, pack their stuff that they're leaving. They quickly began to pack their things. But if you read that story very well, you see that these girls, if you say that they are against their father, you will be right. So whatever their husband says, they now take it more serious than their father. All their royalty now was now leaning to their husband. When their husband said, pack your things, let's go, they did not ask, where are we going? Where are you taking us? Why are you trying to take us away from our dad? What's going on? Explain to us. We need to know. They didn't say that. One of them even took, or you can say that she stole her father's idol or something. One of the, his idols and stuff. She took it. But you could tell that as soon as he says, all right, let's go, they didn't ask any question. They packed their stuff. In today, if that happens, that girl will stand there and find out, what? Where are we going? What are we going to do there? How are we going to survive? Where are you taking us? We need to talk to dad. We need to tell our dad that we're leaving. They did not do any of that because their loyalty now leans on their husband. So that's what it means to follow. So even when you don't understand something and you're being told to do it, it's okay. Do it. As long as that man fears Yah and is keeping the law, you will be fine. Just do it. These are things you need to teach your daughters, that it's okay. And when they understand that, they will benefit, you will benefit, everybody will benefit. It will be a win-win situation. And the reason why we did this today, I give you all the glory. I had no idea that we're going to be doing this, but we'll do it some other time. We'll improve it, and we'll also do for the boys also. The reason why we do this is to help prepare you, because I don't want you to find yourself in a situation being excited about, all this, and then you marry a man that was righteous, everything was fine, a man after Yah's heart, but then there will be a problem, and that problem will come from your side. That's not good. That will not be good, because then, like I said, as soon as you go into a situation of him marrying another woman, which there's no problem with that, but why? If he does it because he is displeased with your daughter, that's a problem. You don't want someone else to come into the family because he is displeased with your daughter. That's what happened to Vashti. You need to read the book of Esther. That's what happened to Vashti. See, Esther came in because of Vashti's disobedience. You don't want that. So even if he wants to marry another wife, let your daughter be found perfect. Because if he then does anything against your daughter, or she does anything against your daughter, that Yah is watching. So that's why this is very important. And when things are done properly, most of the time, men will not want to marry another wife. Like you see with Abraham, Isaac, and Abraham and Jacob. And it was their wife that was saying, no, let's do it. Let's marry another wife. I support you. Marry another wife. These men didn't want to do it because they were satisfied with their wives, even though they had big, gigantic reason to do it because of not having a child. He had a reason, but he didn't do it. But when a man is displeased and then he goes out, he goes to other congregations, he sees all these women that are looks like they are submissive. They may be actually a Jezebel, but they look like they're submissive, and then he brings that kind of Jezebel into the house where your daughter lives. That will be hell for your daughter. And that's what I'm trying to help you to prevent. This will work by doing things that are unconventional, doing things that people will laugh at you for doing, but that's okay, because at the end of the day, you will be the one who will be smiling. And even if he does, like as I said, I don't really talk much about polygamy because it's not a salvational issue. I don't want to waste my time dealing with something that is not a salvational issue. Polygamy has nothing to do with salvation. That's why I don't really spend much time on that. Is it biblical? Yes. Did Yah make David a polygamist? Yes. Did Yah create the 12th tribe of Israel out of polygamous relationship? Yes. Who started that polygamous relationship? Okay, let me slow down. Does Yah approve of polygamy? Yes. Did Yah make David a polygamist? Yes. Did Yah create the 12th tribe of Israel out of a polygamous relationship? Yes. Who started that polygamous relationship with? Who is the one that started the relationship that developed the 12th tribe of Israel? It was women. It was Leah and Rachel. It was them that suggested that. So biblically, according to the Hebrew culture, there's nothing wrong with polygamy. If I get into something like that, I would definitely keep my first wife. She's going to be involved all the way. Not in terms of seeking her permission, God forbid. No, not like that. But in terms of giving her respect due to her. So she's going to be the first, and there will be other. The second one coming in will know that you better not respect her. Don't think because maybe you're younger, or because you think you're more beautiful, or because that you're going to disrespect her. No, you disrespect her, I will deal with you. She's here before you. There's going to be order, hierarchy. She's the first. Half of my property and my wealth belongs to her and her children. Half belongs to all of you. Half belongs to her and her children, her first son. So things will be done in order according to the law. Majority of the people that do polygamy today, I would say more than 90% that do polygamy today are not doing it according to the Bible. Because first of all, those women that they're taking on are not even their wives. Second of all, you have one man and two women or three women living under the same roof. That's not the way it's done. If you are not wealthy enough to be able to build a house for the second wife, then you're not ready for polygamy. You got to be able to provide a separate living for the second wife, because you don't want to have everybody under the same roof. That's crazy. Even children get disgruntled when they are all in the same place. Usually, so to have two different women who is two different character, two different individuals, sharing the same kitchen, sharing the same bathroom, sharing everything, that's not healthy. That is not health wise, but relationship wise. It raises tension. It increases the chances for tension, and you don't want that. So everybody needs to have their space. Everybody needs to have their space, so that they have their space and have their own thing. In that way, there will be peace. Even when there's tension, she can get up and go to her quarters and go to her room and her living room and her kitchen and do whatever. So that's the way that polygamy used to be done. But today people live in, like, I guess, in apartments and living room and in one house, and they're doing polygamy. That's a recipe for disaster. So most people, if we go through polygamy according to the Bible, you will see that the way it's being done today is not the way it used to be done. And also, there's a reason. There's a very good reason. It's not about sex. It's about building family, which in turn result to building wealth, which in turn benefits everybody in the family. Why do you think these women are the ones who were like pushing this? Even till this day, even till today, there are still women that does it. That still want their husband to go and marry another wife. So, but when a righteous man is doing it, he want to make sure that he gets the first wife involved, and also make sure that anybody who is coming in understand that there has to be, you have to use a shovel to dig a line on the ground, not just putting a line on the ground. You have to dig that line so deep that everybody will see it and not to cross it. Not the old wife, not the new wife. There must be a line. That's the reason why I always say that polygamy is not for everyone. Polygamy is not for everyone. Anybody can do it. It's not a sin. But is it good for everyone? Can everybody actually handle it? No. You have to be spiritually strong, emotionally strong, psychologically strong to be able to do polygamy. Because as soon as you have another wife, it's like you now have two children. You can't tell this child, one of your child, that you love them more than you love the other one. It takes a lot of emotional strength to be able to handle that. So you can't do that. You can't tell one of your child that you love them, and then you tell the other child that you don't love them. But not any man can handle that today. Most men cannot handle it. Most men will get so excited. So when they see the new wife, they're so excited. She's new. Everything about her is new. Everything is new. And she's like, oh, I'm done with the old wife. See, most men will not be able to handle it because they're not spiritually and emotionally strong. So in order to do that thing and do it properly, you don't just put a line on the ground. You have to use a big shovel and dig a hole so deep that everybody will see it, not to cross it. You cannot allow the new wife to disrespect the old wife. If she does, there must be a consequence that you will actually carry out, not just a threat. There must be a consequence if the new wife disrespects the old wife. The same way goes around. You cannot have the old wife intimidate the new wife with her position as the first wife. That cannot happen. So there has to be order. And it requires a man who is spiritually strong and psychologically strong and emotionally strong to be able to do this. Most men will get excited when the young wife, shakes her body. He goes crazy. That's why I say that polygamy is not really for everyone. But when it's done properly. But going back to our topic, you don't want this to happen for the man to do it and then blames your daughter. No. But it doesn't mean that all men, that, if he becomes wicked and decide to do it, but at least you know that between you and and your daughter, you guys did the right thing. But it starts now with you teaching her right. Teaching her to, teaching her so that when she, even when I was growing up, I told you I grew up in a Hebrew culture. What I saw women calling their husband our father. Not my husband. Not darling. But it's, if I translate it into English, it's almost the equivalent of master. Now, I saw this. I'm not as old as you think I am. I'm in my early 30s. But I saw women that was doing this. I know one that she's still even alive till today, but her husband is dead. That was the mentality back then, but that can never, hell no, that can never happen today. Why? Because most girls are becoming more and more westernized. You now see boys on their knees proposing to girls, and while the girl is standing. So, like as I said, if your daughter is going to marry somebody who is not keeping the law, don't even worry about any of this. It's not going to matter. But if you're going to deal with a righteous man, it will matter. It's going to come up because he will most likely know these scriptures that I'm talking about and that we went through today. That's when it matters. So, but you have to teach your daughter that it's okay. It's okay. You are being prepared to go and serve your husband. He is your master. That's okay. That you're not going to die. You're fine. You're covered because Yah is watching. He is also required to cherish you. He's also required to, but that will not really work very well if you give him reasons to not do what Yah requires him to do. You never want to put him in a situation where he will be able to point and say, hey, well, I'm not going to do what I'm supposed to do because of you didn't do what you're supposed to do. You don't want to put him in that situation. So, but if you do what you're supposed to do, what we have seen in the Bible and in real life is that they will love you. They will love that woman very well. I had a situation once that it was like a sudden situation. I have no idea who this person was, but it was like a one-time meeting. I only met them once, just once. And And that was the last time I met them. I've never met them again. Just once. I have no idea who they are. But something happened, and there was something they were supposed to. It was something. It just went down. But they wanted me to do something for them, but they were like, "You have to do it," and I was like, "No, I don't have to do it." And she was like, "You better do it. You need to do it. You have to do it." And I was like, "Hell no!" Like, what? Like that? I didn't say this, but that was my attitude. Hell no. There is an Hebrew proverb that says that if you use a tiny rope, the kind of rope you use for trading, for sewing, like a sewing thread or rope, if you use it to drag me, I will follow you. If you know how tiny, like if you look at your clothes, like the thing that they use to sew this thing, if you put it in my neck, if you put that tiny rope, tiny, really, really tiny, the thing that you use to sew your clothes or sew your tassel into your clothes, if you use that kind of rope to put it in my neck and drag me, I will follow you. Why would I follow you? Because I can simply stop and that rope will break. I know I can stop whenever I want. I know that you putting that rope in my neck, you know that I'm not following you because you're dragging me with that rope. Of course not. You know that. This is a proverb. This is a proverb, and I hope you can understand what it means. So if you drag me with that tiny rope, the one that you use to sew clothing, if you put it in my neck and you're like, follow me, and you're dragging me, I will follow you. Because I know you're joking. I know that, that we both understand that thing cannot, I can simply stop and the thing will break and that's it. But if you go get a gigantic rope, like a big giant rope, and you put it in my neck like a chain, and you want to drag me, I will not follow you. I will not follow you. No. I will resist. So when that person did this, I was like, no. I could do it for you, but I'm not going to do it because of your attitude, because of the way you asked for it. I was like, no. And I did not do it. But if, it depends on how they, but if they did not behave that way, I would have bent backwards. So that's what happens. Men tend to be that way. And women that are wise, really, really, wise by talking. It's not by talking too much. Women that are wise will realize this and take advantage of it, when they deal with people. I say people, when you deal with everyone. People will bend backwards to help you when you are polite, when you're humble, when you are... And then that's another thing, weakness. It's okay to be weak. Teach your daughters that it's okay to be weak. She is the weaker vessel. The Gentile says that it's not. The Gentile have lied and said that she is strong. No, she's not. It's okay to cry. It's okay to cry to him. It's okay to say you're sorry. It's okay to ask him what to do. It's okay to ask him, can I do this? Is it okay? It's okay. Her husband is her Lord, her master. Tell her that it's okay. Because the Gentile says that it's not. And now it's between you and the Gentiles and her. Who is going to win? You keep quiet, they win. You teach her, you win. And she benefits. And maybe in the future, you may end up benefiting from that. So you need to teach her that these things are okay. Because that's the opposite of what they're teaching. So that's basically that's it. I hope that it works out for you as you teach your daughters. Let's close with Titus chapter 2. That pretty much tells you what to do with your daughters. This is not only with your daughters. You don't have to have a girl to do this. Even if you don't have children, you can start a ministry and begin to do this with young girls. If you need help and you need advice on how to do this, we can talk. This can be your ministry. This is so much lacking today that the Most High will bless you so much if this is what you spend your life doing. This is what matters. Stuff like this is what matters. Isn't that what we read in the book of Daniel? Those that turn many to righteousness. Because when you do this, you're turning girls into righteousness. And you will be rewarded. Like it says, the promise is found in Daniel chapter 12. So you don't have to have a daughter to do this. You don't have to be a woman to do this. These are information that you can pass on to young girls as much as you can, however you can. And if you do need help on how to do this, I can give you some advice. So let's look at Titus chapter 2. Titus chapter 2, it says, "But as for you, speak the things which are proper for sound doctrines." That's exactly what I'm doing right now. As for you, that's what I'm doing. Speak the things. Speak the things. You may be wondering, man, Brother Tobiah talks too much. What did the Bible say? Faith comes by hearing. Faith comes by hearing. Hearing what? You hear words with your ears. That's you hear. So it says to the preacher, it says, "But as for you, speak the things which are proper for sound doctrine, that the older men be sober, reverent, temperate, sound in faith, in love, impatient." What's supposed to be taught to the older men. The older women likewise, that they be reverent in behavior. Let me slow down. Keeping the law. When I do encourage you to keep the law, to do this, to do this, to do that, to live this way, that's pretty much, it's all summarized in that. Because we're not supposed to continue to live according to the way that we used to live in the past. So I guess this teaching today is, or whatever, I don't like to call it teaching, but this is for the older women. It says in verse 3, Titus chapter 2 from verse 3, "The older women likewise, that they be reverent in behavior, not slanderers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things." I know you probably don't know this, but it's okay to drink wine. The Christians say that you don't have to, it's a sin. No, it's okay. So if you do like wine, it's okay to drink wine. Just don't drink too much, just like it says here. If we are in the feast of, Feast of Tabernacle, we can actually drink wine and celebrate. Dance all day, jump up and down, praise Yah, celebrate. It's a big celebration. And you can drink wine. You can drink wine whenever you want, except on the Sabbath, of course. You don't want to get drunk on the Sabbath. But we're not supposed to be drunk. So even a woman can drink wine. That's okay. But Christians say that you don't know, they try to frown upon that because they have this twisted way of looking at the Bible where they tell you that the things that Yah say we should do, we shouldn't do. Things that Yah say we shouldn't do, they say we should do. Crazy, twisted way of looking at the Bible. So drinking wine is okay. That's what it tells you right here. Just don't drink too much. So it says that the older woman likewise, that they be reverent in behavior. That's another thing. The greatest teaching tool is actually your action, your behavior. If you are constantly rebuking your child, yelling at them, telling them that they shouldn't lie, you're constantly yelling at them for lying, beating them up for lying, and then somebody calls on the phone, you tell them to tell that person that you're not home. What kind of example are you showing them? So if you're going to waste all this time and spend all this time and teaching your daughter to be submissive, to be ready to serve her husband, to, when you give her to her husband, if you do all of this, if you tell her all of this, but she cannot see it from your behavior, because what she sees in your behavior is more important to her. She will most likely learn those. She follows your behaviors. There are some women that I see, and I'm like, hell no, with their, the way they behave tells me a lot about their daughter. Children in general. The way a child behave, the way a parent behave, tells me something about their children. That's the reason why in the Hebrew culture, till this day, even my little brother that wants to get married, in the Hebrew culture, as soon as you say you want to marry somebody, they want to come and investigate your family, your parents, your family. You're investigating them and they're investigating you. That's how we do it. Even till this day, you go and check out the family and see how they are. Do they have a history of mental illness? Do they have a history of busting out to anger? These are things that, so it happens even till this day. So there are some children that I see, or some adults that I see. It tells, I wouldn't want my child to marry their children. Just by looking at that man or that woman, because they are the one that raised the children. So I don't want my children to mess with their children, because they are the one that raised the children. And the children will most likely behave like their mom or their dad, because that's what they saw growing up. So my behavior is, you see, I can tell my son whatever. I can spend 5 hours every day talking to my son every day. But if I'm not actually doing those things that I'm telling him to do, it's a complete waste of time. He will only do it when I'm there. But as soon as I leave, he will not do it. But if he sees me doing things in action, whether I'm there or not, he will do it, because it's a matter of principle. He saw it, and seeing me do those things tells him that I actually mean what I'm saying. Same thing goes the other way around too for the women. So as you are preparing her and teaching her and doing all this, keep in mind that your actions, she's going to be watching you to see what you do. Same thing with the boys. If you're telling your son to do this, he needs to learn a trade, he needs to do this, he should be able to provide, blah, 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 but you don't provide. You are not doing the things that you're telling him to do. It's a waste of time. You're not serious. That's what it's saying here about behavior of the older women. Before you then go on to teach your daughters. That's what we see here first in verse 3. Titus chapter 2 verse 3. The older women likewise, that they be reverent in behavior, not slanderers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things. Verse 4. That they admonish the young woman to love their husband. That they admonish the young women to love their husband and to love their children. Now, I said earlier, you don't have to have a daughter to do this. Even if you don't have any children, you can still do this. You can still teach other young women. So it's not just, this is only for your children. No. So verse 4, that they admonish the young women to love their husbands, to love their children. Verse 5, to be discreet. To be discreet. To be discreet. To be chaste. Do we see that on the street today? Hell no. We see abomination. We see a bunch of little prostitutes just by the way they dress alone. No. A daughter of Yah cannot be like that. A daughter of Yah cannot be trying to chase men by her dressing. No. No. Remember what I said earlier about the Muslim women? How private they are? If you are a man, try to talk to a Muslim woman on this. I'm not talking about those like American Muslim women. I'm talking about like a real woman that came from Middle East. If you see her in the store, try talking to her and see what happens. Try to talk to her and see how she will respond to you. She doesn't want to talk to you. She doesn't want to talk to you. She will be so comfortable to talk to a man. They're so uncomfortable with talking to men. Very uncomfortable. They don't do that. They're very, very private, very shy. And there's not even a man around to like tell her to do that. So it says to teach the younger ones to be discreet. Girls of today are no longer discreet. They are not discreet at all. And they're not discreet at all. They're not discreet. They're not chaste. They are very, very no shame. They are very shameless. Girls of today are very shameless. A girl is supposed to have some shame. A girl should not be able to just talk to a man anyhow, respond to man. Like, what I mean by talk to man anyhow, I mean like any man that just talk to her should just like answer back and just respond back. No. That's a sign of not being chaste, not being discreet. So it says to teach them to be discreet, chaste, and also a righteous man sees that. These are the things that attracts a righteous man to a young woman. Not the looks. No. A righteous man is not looking at the looks because he knows that looks will pass away. Worldly people look at looks. Righteous man don't look at that. He's looking at behavior. So that's why you see in the scripture, a man can marry a girl based on the behavior of the mother or the father. Because that tells him, you know what? That tells him, wow, if they behave this way, they must have raised their son or their daughter this way. But by what I see today, it's just, if all the options I have is by the women I see today, the girls I see today, I'm like, thank you very much. No, thank you. No, thank you. First of all, they are pretty much all defiled. All defiled. All have given their virginity to dogs. They've all given their virginity to dogs because their parents did not know some of the things that we know now about how that is supposed to be protected. That's part of your value. You don't give it to a dog. So, verse 5, Titus chapter 2, verse 5, to be discreet, to be chaste, homemakers, good and obedient to their husband. How do you be a homemaker and be a career woman at the same time? That's too much to be asking of one person to do. There was a while ago, there was one young girl that I saw. I was asking her questions. I was interested in her about marriage. And I didn't tell her, I didn't say anything, but I was just asking her questions, kind of like an interview. So I asked her about like what's her plan for the future. What does she want to do in the future? She's like, I want to work in an office. I want to have this job. I want to do this when I graduate. And I'm like, okay, so what if you get married and your husband says, don't go to work, just take care of the kids? She's like, no, I'm not going to do it. I have to, have my career. I want to work. I think she said like maybe in the bank or something. And I'm like, okay, what if your husband provides everything and you don't lack anything and he wants you to take care of the kids? She said, no. This girl told me, no. Even if my husband provides everything for me, I still want to walk in the in the world. I still need to work in I want to work in a corporate world, is what she was telling me. She wants to work in the corporate world. That was pretty much her point. And I keep insisting, what if everything is provided? She said, no, I will still, that's my dream, to work in a corporate world. So, and then I was like, okay, what about kids? You're going to have, she said, oh, I will have kids. And I'm like, how are you going to take care of the kids? She was like, well, I will take care of them. I get them ready in the morning. They go to school, and then in the evening, or in the they'll go to school. And I'm like, okay, they will go to school. You go to work in the morning. You will get off around 5 in the evening or 6 in the evening. Who's going to take care of your kids? She's like, well, I'll find a maid to pick them up or something. So at that point, I know where the thing is going. I really, really do like her. But so when she eventually found out, when I was asking why I was asking those questions, when she found out, she immediately changed her mind. She changed her mind, and she began to basically try to tell me that, okay, she basically changed her mind, that she would do whatever but at that point, because she already showed me who she is in the beginning, she showed me her true plans for the future. So, because, she was just saying that, so when she found out why I was asking those questions, she flipped, and she, decided that, okay, whatever you say, whatever. At that point, I'm like, oh, no, thank you very much. But that's what you see the Bible teaching here in Titus chapter 2, verse 5, for, to be a homemaker and that's another thing too, because if you are not home, a woman is supposed to be, taking care of the kids, and, if you have to go to work and you have to do all that, then that means you have to send your children to some people, to some daycare, to some school. That's not healthy for the children. You need to be there for them. The man is supposed to be going out there making the money to provide for the family. The wife is supposed to be there. And then that's the reason why boys are trained to have a skill, to have their own house, to be able to, not be in debt, so that he himself alone can be able to carry the family. But when you have a mortgage, car note, and all of these things, you see that it's very difficult for one person to be able to carry that family. She will need to get a job. And that's what we see playing out today in the world. And then the result is that two of them will have to work, which results to taking the children to daycare or to school. You see what Satan is doing? So these are things that, these are things I hope, like they say, a word is enough for the wise. I hope that you can pick some things out of this in terms of your daughters, how to train your daughter, or even if you don't have a child, you can still have a ministry doing this, because this is not out there. This is lacking. This kind of thing is lacking. We need to have more people. We need to have more people that will be teaching this to the young people. We need to have more people, because this is good for everyone. This is good for the entire family. This is good for everyone when things are done properly. And what a result, at the end of the day, the girl is going to be the one that will benefit, because her husband will love her. So whenever a real man senses a sense of resistance, I'm not talking about all men. All men are not equal. We all know. Psychologically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, all men are not equal in these categories. No. I saw a video the other day of Steve Harvey crying. No, she wasn't crying because somebody died. Though that's not a justification. She wasn't crying because she was in pain. He wasn't crying because he was in pain. Oh, by the way, he was crying on a national television, on a national TV. Now, he wasn't crying because he was in pain or because somebody passed away. He was crying because They went to the city where he grew up. I think maybe like Cleveland or something. They went to the city where he grew up, and they went to the house where he grew up and did some videos and stuff, some documentaries, some videos or whatever, something like that. And the mayor of that city named one street or something after his name. He started crying on national television. Now, is that a reason for a man to cry? Now, he is a big dude with suit and tie, but he's very feminine, which is the case with most men today. So I'm not talking about all men. All men are not equal. No. Psychologically, spiritually, emotionally, no. So a real man that follows Yah's word, they are very threatened with anything that looks like rebellion or resistance, especially from women. They are. Think of it like a PTSD. You know, like when something traumatic happens to somebody, when something very traumatic happens to somebody, they have a PTSD. You know, once in a while they get scared. Like when somebody witnessed a very bad accident or bad explosion. When somebody was in a place where something exploded and a lot of people dies, that person that was there, some of them will suffer from this for years. Whenever they hear a big sound, they get scared. They run under a table or something. Real men of Yah are like that today. They are like that. They are traumatized by what happened in the garden. Because they read about what happened. They see how Yah handled the situation and what Yah now requires of men. They saw how Adam messed up. Real men of Yah are traumatized by that. And they don't want to behave like Adam, you see? So you can't blame them that much for being like that. That's why they are very sensitive to any kind of aggression or rebellion from women. They don't want to repeat that because they know that Yah will hold them responsible. You can understand why they would do that. That's the reason why the Bible tells you in Sirach chapter 25, verse 24. I think at this point I'm going to go ahead and read it, but the sister read it. Our sister read that, Sister Lucretia read that. So this is exactly men, real men of Yah are traumatized by what happened in the garden because they know that Yah doesn't want them to repeat that. Okay, let's close up with Sirach chapter 25, verse 24 to 26. Sirach 25, 24 to 26, it says this. Sirach chapter 25, verse 24 to 26. From a woman, sin had its beginning, and because of her, we all die. Allow no outlet to water, and no boldness of speech to an evil wife. Now, allow no outlet of water was a proverb. Those who he's talking to knows exactly what he's talking about. Allow no outlet of water means no room for disobedient, not even a tiny, zero tolerance. Period. Allow no outlet to water. Don't have any leak of disobedient. And no boldness of speech to an evil woman. Remember what I said about arguing with man? It doesn't look good. To people like Steve Harvey, a feminine so-called man, that's fine. Knock yourself out with argument with him. He has been taught by the Gentiles and stuff, you know, that we're all the same, we're all equal, blah, blah, blah. You know, yeah. When you're dealing with a worldly man, that's different. When you're dealing with a man that knows Yah's word, that's totally different. Because they've been taught by this. They've been taught by the scriptures. They've been commanded to do these things. So, you can see, you know, this is deep. This is deep stuff. And not everybody will accept this. I understand. Not everybody will accept it. I told you guys of a story of one other girl that I was talking to about marriage, and I spent almost 1 hour explaining these things to her. And when I was done, I told her not to say anything. Don't say yes. Don't say anything. Just go think about it. Think about it, and then tell me what you think. If you say no, I can understand. So she came back and was like, no, what did she say? She said she describes it as an authoritarian relationship. It's like authoritarian. It's like, no, it's not supposed to be done that way, blah, 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 blah. After she went on and on, at the end, I was like, thank you very much. I'm glad you told me that, I'm glad you told me how you felt. I like that. It's good that you did not pretend as if you're interested, hoping that I'm going to change my mind, because I'm not going to change my mind. I'm glad that, I told you what I'm looking for, the kind of marriage that we're going to have. Our marriage will be based on the Bible. I'm going to rule over you, and I'm going to tell you what to do sometimes, and that should be okay, and I don't want you to argue about that and stuff like that. So I'm glad that you don't like that, and you told me. Thank you very much. I love your honesty. I wish you well. That was it. That was the last time I spoke to her. So it says in verse 25, Sirach 25:25, allow no outlet to water. That's a proverb. And no boldness of speech to an evil woman. It's interesting that it's like, that's why I say that it's okay to cry. It's okay to cry to a man. It's okay to be weak. That's fine. You're the weaker vessel. That's fine. It doesn't make you don't look bad if you cry. No. It looks bad if a man cries. A man shouldn't be crying like that, It looks bad. So it's okay. You are the woman. That's fine. You don't need to be macho. You need to be effeminate. That's fine. That's okay. So, but when like it says, and no boldness of speech. That's pretty much what's happening today. And then it says in verse 26, if she does not go as you direct, separate her from yourself. Now, that's the part that a lot of people are not going to be willing to do. A lot of women, even some of the girls that you teach this, as soon as they get back to the system of the Gentiles, they will not be able to do this. I was once speaking to someone, and she told me, hell no. She said, hell no. I would never let a man rule over me. And I was like, wait. What if God said that a man should rule over you? She said, hell no. A man will never rule over me. I was like, okay. What does it mean for a man to rule over you, by the way? Like a ruler, a king. A king does not take permission from his subjects. He doesn't ask for opinions. He doesn't ask for what you guys think. He doesn't take permission before he does something, because he rules over them. Now, not every woman will be able to accept this. All praises to our Heavenly Father. I pray that in one way or the other, just in one way or the other, there's a way you can pick out one thing or two things from this, regardless of who you are. I don't care who you are, whether you're a man or woman. I pray that you will be able to pick out one or two things from everything that we went through today. If you had told me when we came on that we're going to be studying this and going through this, I didn't know. I had no idea. But let the Spirit lead. That's what I do. Let the Spirit lead me wherever. I'm just a vessel. I am just a vessel. So I pray and hope in Yeshua's name that there's one way or the other, you as a man or as a woman, a mother or a father, will be able to pick up one thing from all of this that will be helpful to you. If any information from this will be helpful to you, even if it's just one, I will be so happy. I will be very, very happy. So I pray that you can apply this and pass it on to your children, because at the end of the day, so let's be very specific in terms of what to do, in terms of how to teach them. This is very important. Like as I said, it's going to benefit you a lot. It will benefit them a lot. At least Yah will know that you did your best, and that in terms of teaching, like it says in in Timothy, right? In 2 Timothy or in Titus chapter 2, Titus chapter 2. Like it says, right? If you read Titus chapter 2, you see what it actually tells you to do, how to do this. So if you do your part, it doesn't mean that things may not go wrong in the future, but at least you know that you did your part. And if she herself does her part, and the man ends up being wicked, you know that you did your part and she did her part. And Yah is watching. And Yah will not be happy with that man. And most righteous men would not want to put themselves in a situation where Yah will be unhappy with them. They will look at the whole situation and they will see that it's not worth it. It's not worth doing that. And they will remove themselves from that. So in 1 Corinthians chapter 11, 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 8 and verse 9, it says, and these are scriptures that you may use as you do this lesson or this teaching to yourself. I'm going to think about it a little bit more and see if there's a way we can have a one-time. I just have a lot of stuff going on that I'm doing. I don't want to take on more than I can carry and more than I can do. So, but I will see if there's a way we can do maybe a short-term kind of a teaching or something, a program or something we can do for like a month or something and do this together. And then also you can share your experience, the mistakes you made, and share it with them. I'm gonna try for us to maybe we'll do that with the girls, and then we'll also do it with the boys, because I made a lot of mistakes that I can share with young boys that are like 13, 14, 12 years old, 13, 14. And by the time they are like 18, they should be set up. They should be ready to go by the time they are 18. They should have a wife, have their own home, have their own thing. These are things that are the mistakes that I made. I could share with them. I'm sure there are mistakes that you made also as a woman, that knowing what you know now, you wouldn't have made those mistakes. So these are some of the scriptures that you can use. In 1 Corinthians chapter 11, 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 8 and verse 9. For man is not, 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 8 and verse 9. For man is not from woman, but woman from man. Nor was man created for the woman, but woman for the man. So a woman was created for the man. The man was serving Yah. Yah saw that, him going to work every day in the garden and doing that and coming back. So Yah created somebody, a helper, to help him, to serve him. But she was specifically created to serve him, not Yah directly. So when she is serving him, she was indirectly serving Yah, because that makes it easy for him to serve Yah. If you compare that with what the Gentiles have told us, you see there's a problem. Because there's nowhere in that program we see serving Yah. They simply says that we're all equal. We're all the same. It's 50-50. He gets a job, which the Bible requires him to do, to provide for his family. But she also goes and gets a job, which the Bible condemns, because she's supposed to raise the children. So who do we follow? The Bible or the Gentiles? So these are things you have to start by teaching her that, you're supposed to serve your husband. That's why Sarah called her husband her master. That's only something you can only call somebody who is your master. Your master. Master has to do with rulership. You don't call your business partner your master. That doesn't make any sense. You can do it if you're joking, but on a serious level, it doesn't make sense to call your partner your master. You can only call somebody who rules over you your master. But I guess Sarah was dumb. I guess maybe she was kind of dumb or something. She wasn't intelligent enough. I guess because she lived in a long time ago. I mean, compared to the women of today. So these are things you have to make sure that you're comparing what the Bible says with what the world is doing, so that she can see the difference. So these are the things that that she understands why women was created. You remember in John chapter 4, John chapter 4, when the woman asked for salvation, when the woman asked, the Samaritan woman, she wanted to be saved. She asked for salvation. What did Yeshua say? Go call your husband. I'm not going to go into that right now, but think about that. Why would Yeshua say go call your husband? But let's leave that for now. You can just think about that. So, and then it's supposed to be following. Like we see in Sirach chapter 24. Sirach 25, verse 24 to 26. It says if she refused to follow your directions or do what you say, separate yourself from her. So it's again, we're dealing with all this because you desire to have a righteous man, and a righteous man is going to know all this. And like you see Solomon's mother telling Solomon that this is what you're going to expect from a woman. These are things you will expect. So a righteous man is going to expect all this. A righteous man would definitely expect all this. So at the end of the day, they will benefit and you will benefit. And if you happen to have any question about everything that we looked at today, we surely did look at a lot of scriptures. A lot of scriptures. I advise you to, whenever we meet, I suggest you have a pen and paper on hand. Have some kind of pen and paper, because a lot of scriptures are going to be coming out. And you may not be able to read. I don't suggest you read them immediately, unless if I tell you to read it, because they're going to be coming out really fast. So I suggest that you write them down, and I suggest that afterward you read them through, just to make sure that all the scriptures make sure that it's true. And make sure I advise that you do this. Write all the scriptures down and then go through it yourself and read all of them and make sure that this is true. So all praises to our Heavenly Father. If you do have any question or anything, any comment, it doesn't have to be a question. If you simply would like you and I to just talk about this, you're more than welcome to call me. So don't only call when you have questions, even if you just want us to talk about this. If you're like, you know what, Brother Tobiah, I was thinking about this, we can talk. Trust me. If you call and I don't answer, I will call you back. If you just want to talk, if you need some ideas in terms of to make a ministry out of this, in helping young girls and young boys, whatever, feel free to call me. I'm running out of time. I'm looking at my recording device over here. So all praises to our Heavenly Father. I give you all the glory and all the honor. And like as I said, you are more than welcome to reach out to me. If you're watching this on a video, you can look for my contact information. If any of this concerns you, or you are worried, or you're whatever, anything, for whatever reason, I'm always available. If I don't answer, I will call you back. So I thank you for everything, and I thank you for watching. All praises to